What is up, everybody? Welcome back to the Devy YouTube channel. I am your host, Kevin Coleman, and we're back, and we're going to be talking about another Reading the Room. I love these episodes. I have a lot of fun creating these things, and we're going running backs for this one, and we're going to be looking at the Oklahoma running back room. Who do we like in this room? Who has NFL upside? Who has college upside? Where are we going in terms of production? Looking at last year's team and kind of just going over like, hey, who can win this job here? Eric Gray moving on to the NFL. So now they have kind of a big opening there. Who is that? Who are the incoming freshmen and who you can expect to kind of take over? So we're going to be diving into that after the intro. Hit that like and subscribe button, and we'll be getting into Oklahoma running back room. All right, let's get into the Oklahoma running back room and kind of talk about it and what we see. But last year, so let's take a look at their offense. Overall, in the first year since Lincoln Riley left, Brent Venables came in and wasn't a great year. 6-7 did not do what they needed to do. Jeff Levy's offense did not do what it needed to do. And there were some reasons for that, right? So I do think defensively they struggled. It wasn't all the offense's fault, but I do think of inefficiency, injuries at the quarterback position with Dillon Gabriel. And make no mistake, you cannot lose 49-0 to Texas. Just can't do it, right? If you're an Oklahoma fan, you don't like that. Now, as far as their offense goes, because that's what we're looking at, 32nd in the league, in the NCAA for points per game. Total offense is 13. So it was there. I do think that, like, when you're looking at overall at their numbers and their stats and they did put up some offensive numbers that you really like. Gabriel did play in 12 games, but he was kind of banged up the whole year, right? Offensively, as a rushing attack, you'll see it there, 44.7 rushing attempts per game. So they did lean on Eric Gray, who had a really, really good year. 213 attempts, 1,300 yards, 11 touchdowns. Jovantae Barnes did come in there, had 519 yards that we'll get into. So they did do well on the ground. It's just from just an efficiency metric, and even from the wide receiver room, didn't really have that guy that stepped up in that room, right? Marvin Mims was great, but not any other supporting cast. It just fell off, right? Like, if you watched Oklahoma last year and you're an Oklahoma fan, it did feel off last year, and they didn't accomplish what they needed to do. But when we're looking at the running back room, who do we expect to kind of be that guy? So let's kind of go through it. We're going to talk about strengths, areas of improvement. First guy up is probably Jovantae Barnes. He looked really good at spot times last year, 519 yards, 5 touchdowns. Four-star kid, came in, big size, big frame, the stuff that you like to see from a running back. And I thought at times last year, he looked like the clear-cut favorite to take over, right, for in this offense. And I think he highlights that well. As far as things that he does really well, 3-down back. I know necessarily his receiving numbers weren't great last year, but I do think that he can complement the offense really well and be a 3-down guy. And then again, when these strengths and areas of improvement we're looking at, we're kind of mixing it like NFL upside with college production. I try to do both. But I do think that a 3-down guy, 3-down role is not out of the question. Downhill runner, really, really goes downhill, does that very well. And I think that's where his strength lies. When he gets momentum behind him, this kid can freaking go, and he's going to punish you. Like, he plays bigger than what his weight says. I'd be surprised if he's really 201, because this kid's got muscle. This kid's got strength. He's going to punish you. And he is explosive. Like, when you watch him run, he's an explosive back. And again, especially at the line of scrimmage, one cut, boom, goes, and he has that. Added that with his strength and power. Like, Barnes is one of my favorite guys to watch. Like, I really think Barnes could take a next step and really be a big part of this 25 class, which at the running back position has some really good guys. But as far as, like, if you're ranking them and where they're at, like, I do think there's question marks in terms of, like, most of these guys. So when you're looking at that, I really, really like him overall as a back. Now, areas of improvement for him, I think, like, his lateral agility, again, is something that you watch when he's running and you're like, hey, you could be a little bit better at that. Lateral agility, quickness in terms of, like, making guys miss in the open field. I do think he's explosive, and he shows that. He's explosive and he looks for contact. Now let's see him adjust and get that lateral agility and kind of make guys miss in the open field. That's the area that I really want to see him develop at. And if he could do that, then we're talking about a very big improvement. Usage too, like, again, when you're looking at the depth chart as we go through it, will he get that Eric Gray usage that we saw, or is he going to be like more of a running back up by committee? and then vision. And again, that stuff comes with time, right? Freshman running backs, I'm not going to be too hard on these kids. These kids can all develop. I think one thing that I hate seeing out there sometimes is like negativity about young kids, right? Like there's no negativity here. I think he can improve his vision in this offense. And if he does these things, he'll be really, really good in terms of what that next step looks like, right? And I'm pretty high on Barnes. For me, he's my 15th ranked running back overall in college football. So I do think highly of him in terms of like NFL value, right? So I do have that. The one thing to note with Barnes, he was in a boot in the spring. So, and is really, I've tried to find a bunch of different information getting prepared for this video. And there's a lot of like, not, it's being very discreet out there what's going on. But assuming he's ready, I really think he's at the head of this depth chart as we kind of talk about it, right? Now, next kid, Gavin Sawchuk. Now, Gavin is a guy that came in, a very, very highly rated recruit. And I think that Gavin can definitely, he's a smaller guy. So I think these two complement each other very well. 5'11", 185. You see the numbers, not necessarily the highest numbers in terms of like what we saw. We saw Barnes really take that over. But there was times, when you saw Gavin, run last year, there were some games that you're like, oh, I see his talent, like explosiveness. Oh, he can do that. And I think that's the exciting part in terms of what Gavin was able to do. Only played in 2 games last year, right? So again, there was flashes, but we're not talking about like, oh my God, he was there the whole time. Like, so, but there was flashes for Gavin. And I think that's what excites you. And he had that big game against Florida State. And I think that's where everybody kind of talks about the 100 yards, a touchdown of like, oh, wow, they have that good 1-2 punch. And I actually do think it could really be a fun 1-2 punch if they're really, using that right way. Now, as far as what he does well, speed is the thing that stands out to me. Smaller kind of guy in terms of Barnes, right? We're not talking about super small here. But he has that speed that maybe Barnes doesn't. One cut ability. So I do think that Sawchuk definitely has that one cut and go. And when you watch his tape, his high school tape, his 247 going through it, watch the Florida State game, he has that one cut ability to kind of be an explosive back. And that's what I like about him. And I think that when you're looking for a big play guy, he's that guy. I think he can definitely be that guy in this offense, and that's fun to watch. And I think that he has some versatility in that way. As far as like areas of improvement, just from an NFL perspective, size, you got to get up. Like now, I did read an article recently that said he gained 10 pounds this offseason. If that's the case, we like that. And if you keep that size or that speed, then we're going to love that. And Oklahoma Sooner fans are going to love that as well, right? So if he did keep up his size, if he gets those 10 pounds of muscle and kind of moves it on, you have to like that about him. Inside runner too, like I don't see that. A lot of the, stuff that we look at, and especially with the scouts and like kind of like the 247 sports insiders have talked about, a lot of his stuff is just bounce outside, looks to bounce outside, which he can. He's fast. He's going to get to turn the corner. He's going to make guys just look stupid out there. But that's the question mark. And it needs volume too, right? Like, are these guys going to get enough usage to where we're talking about them being NFL prospects? Now, I do think they're getting enough usage to be, college football studs. Like, I really think that Oklahoma is going to lean on these guys. But moving forward, they need that volume to show they can kind of take that workload. Next guy here, Marcus Major, been in Oklahoma for a while, kind of that solid veteran 3-star kid coming out, right? And we've seen that last year, got a little bit of run, but nothing crazy. But he does offer that veteran like leadership area in there. So we're not talking about a huge like upside guy here, but I do think that he'll get a little bit of run with this coaching staff because they're going to trust him, right? And I do think there's some trust there with what he was able to do and able to accomplish at Oklahoma. Next kid. So we're going to get into, I like this kid. So if you haven't checked this kid out, I would highly, go do it. He was running back 29 last year, the class. Emeka Megwa, I believe is how you say it. Really fun size. I think he's college ready size, right? 6'2", 207. He does have some lateral like ability in the open field and does that. And again, he ran track really early, and you saw kind of like has that kind of track ability, but a big guy projects as that. I know that he was kind of coming out of high school as like maybe a linebacker too. I know he played both ways, so he definitely has that open field and like that, wants to drive you into the ground kind of strength. He's a transfer from Washington, so we're seeing him come in as a transfer, and I think that is fun kind of to watch. I know he's an athlete, but when you're looking at what he was as a running back, that's the area. Now, as far as the freshmen coming in, so Daylan Smothers, really running back 40, smaller prospects. And we're thinking of like where he comes in at 176, obviously a smaller guy. The thing about Daylan again is like, where are you at with him in terms of like how immediate is his role? I don't think his role is going to be that immediate. But even though he's smaller, when you go on his huddle tape and everything from there out there in North Carolina, he does have some big breakaway runs from the inside, right? I think it's going to take time for him to develop. So look for that. Like, it wouldn't shock me to see him be, redshirted. And again, putting on a little bit of strength up there, but he's a name to note, right? He's definitely a name to note of where he's at and what kind of runner he is. He does run strong for 176 pounds. I will say that. But again, that's competition in high school. Next kid, Kalib Hicks. I really like Kalib Hicks in terms of where he's at, running back 49. He's your more prototypical big kid, 5'11", 195. So they definitely have a type here in terms of the runner that they are. You watch his tape and you go through it. I think he does some really good things. And he has the ability. He's not just a big guy that gets, inside run and inside zone. That's it. He does have some, outside run. Like there's a couple of plays on his tape when you go through his junior highlights, his ability to kind of break it off on the outside, make guys miss, turn it up. He does that well. A lot of inside RPOs that they ran in high school. But he is the banger, right? So he's that guy that's coming in. He kind of reminds me of Barnes. So when you're looking at Hicks, he kind of reminds me of Barnes, where, when you were going through these guys of what they profile like, that's the area there. Now, did play it in Texas too. So I do like these runners from Texas. I will say that I am, the guy that looks at kind of where they went to high school. Did they play in 6A? What did that look like? He did. I think he's played 5A on this one. He's got agility. There's a fun highlight of him jumping over a dude and just a lot of fun to look at. I think he's kind of getting underrated at running back 49 in this class. So Kalib Hicks is a guy to know. Maybe not this year, but he is a guy to know for next year. And then the last guy, I had to throw him in here. This is my favorite guy ever. Chapman McKown. Now, he's a preferred walk-on. On 247, he has him at 5'5", but then on an athletic background, it has him at 5'8". So I put 5'7", 160. I just wanted to throw him up here. He's got speed, they said. I love that profile picture. It makes me laugh, but he could be, right? So when you're looking at this, I do think they need weapons and they need, hey, maybe they'll get him out there and have him. I don't even think they're on the depth chart on some of the websites that I found, but this was a fun little get right here. Chapman McKown, preferred walk-on though, and definitely in that room. Now, let's talk about kind of what their offensive outlook looks for 2023. You know what? Quarterback room, Dillon Gabriel's there, and I know he's getting touted as kind of being that college fun guy. And he's definitely old. He's been there. I think if he's healthy all year, that's who you ride, right? We really like Jackson Arnold here at the Devy Royale. He's a lot of fun to watch. I think he's the future. He made some great throws in the spring game. The spring game was weird, by the way. Oklahoma fans, I don't know what the hell your coach is doing out there. But, Dillon Gabriel will probably be the guy. If he struggles, though, Jackson could push him, right? And I really like Jackson Arnold. I think you guys should be excited about him if you're a Sooner fan. Wide receiver room, I really like Jaleel Farouk. I think that he's kind of an underrated, especially in the Big 12 this year. They got Drake Stoops there. Andre Anthony from my Michigan Wolverines, he has all the talent in the world, right? Like I'm a Michigan fan to my detriment, but Anthony has talent. It's just, can they unleash it? I think this offense really does well. I thought out of everybody in like the transfer portal, he picked a great school to go to, in my opinion. And so he picked that school to go, and shout out to him. Keep an eye on him. I do think he can make that next step. Jaden Gibson, LV Bunkley Shelton, Gavin Freeman, pretty good. Like, right? So like pretty good guys out here in this receiver room. Tight end room, Austin Stogner's back. So shout out Stogner. I liked Stogner when he was at Oklahoma. Didn't get a ton of usage, but did do well there. Blake Smith, Caden Helm, some of those other guys there. Stogner gives them that immediate presence, right? Fifth-year kid, I believe, maybe sixth-year, and definitely gives kind of Gabriel that outlet for somebody in there. So that was a big get back from South Carolina when he went with Rattler. Now, as far as prediction goes, I think Barnes can lead this backfield, right? And I do think Sawchuk's going to definitely get some usage in there. I don't necessarily think it's going to be a running back by committee. I will say this, though. This is a caveat, and I know I'll get yelled at, but if he's healthy, if Barnes is fully healthy, he's deemed healthy, I think Barnes will take this spot. I think that he's going to be the running back one, and I think he'll get the majority of the carries. Now, if he's not healthy, then that brings in a whole other bag of worms. And I don't think Sawchuk's bad. I think Sawchuk's a great option as well. I just think Barnes, to me, has the better NFL outlook, and that's why I put him here, because I do think that he can carry the load and be that volume 3-down guy. And Sooners fans should be excited for him. I know I'm excited for him in this offense. And then next year, going into the SEC with Jackson Arnold and Barnes and Sawchuk and those guys, that gives you a better chance to win, because that schedule is brutal. So just a heads up there. So Appreciate you guys. If you like Devy, if you like college football, if you like all that stuff, think about joining the Patreon. You can find a link below. Other than that, we appreciate you guys. I'll check you guys next time.